with the whole crew today. We're back with the whole crew. Pre-All-Star game. Well, actually, when you guys listen, this will be post-All-Star game. Did you guys watch any of the All-Star events last night?
Nah, I was at work.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't.
I was at the
I didn't
Seahawks
care.
game.
I got the Twitter notifications, and that was about it.
Yeah, it just wasn't worth it. There was no like names I really cared about seeing win, and like dunk contest, there's no names where I thought it was gonna be entertaining. I heard it was pretty bad from what other people have said.
Oh yeah, I guess I did catch the last round of the dunk contest, and Juan Toscano Anderson missed all 3 attempts. So like all the judges were literally saying like he could do a layup and win. And it was kind of cool. Like he went off the glass and dunked it, but it was a pretty big letdown.
Yeah, that's annoying. So we're like, it's crazy. I always hate that the All-Star breaks so late. Like we're technically, I think, 3/4 of the way through the season. So we figured it'd be a good time to look back on the 8 players that have been with us this entire time and just kind of rate them based on what our expectations were. We obviously have 3, which is going to be nice. So we can just kind of find the middle ground. And I have the tier maker set up for the 8 players. So I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. There we go.
Come on, Maddie, you're a teacher.
The stats pulled up too. Yeah, I know. It just takes a while to get everything pulled up. So you guys see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have the 8 guys we have. I don't think I'm missing anyone. I didn't include like the 2A guys like Hauser and Thomas. But we've got our 8 guys that have been with us throughout this year. Obviously, Pritchard, Grant, Al, Jalen, Jason, Smart, Neesmith, and Rob. So you want to just start? Is there any order you want to start with? Do you want to start with the stars first? Do you want to just go based on the order that we see here?
Yeah, we can just go based on the order we see here.
Okay. So talking about Peyton Pritchard, obviously, I think we had high expectations for Pritchard coming into this year.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really fair based on just the amount of playing time, the opportunity he got to completely just say, like, looking at his raw stats, to just say he's been a disappointment, because it really wasn't his fault. He didn't have like the same playing time and opportunities he had this year. But what are your overall expectations of when he is playing? And if you'd like, I have all the stats pulled up as well, if you can see in the top tabs there. But what are your just initial thoughts on how Pritchard's produced this year?
I mean, when he gets his shot, he's played well. I mean, you can't get much improvement by playing the last 3 minutes of every other game, or playing backup time when Dennis or Marcus was out. I mean, if we're gonna tier it here, I would say it was below expectation, but it's not. That's not on him, I don't think. I mean, it's on just the rotation and playing time. Early season, Ime was very anti Peyton Pritchard, so
yeah, I think a lot of
it's like you said, Matt. We had pretty high expectations, so I would put him in the below category as well, just because he had such a good rookie year. But it should be interesting here in the second half of the season, because it's looking like Pritchard and Neesmith will be fighting for like 10, 12, 15 minutes a game. Like one of them's going to get it and the other probably won't be in the rotation. So I'm interested to see which one of them kind of earns those minutes moving forward.
Yeah, and obviously Derek White brings us a lot of versatility, because Derek White can play that backup point guard role, slide Neesmith in if they want to go wing heavy, or if you slide Derek White or Marcus Smart next to Peyton Pritchard, you have Peyton Pritchard as more of an off-ball player, but still kind of guarding other point guards. It's a lot of versatility, and it's good because I think one of the two, but I'd agree. I think he's played a little bit below expectations this year, but I think he has an opportunity in the second half to at least like show whether or not he's improved based on what we've seen in the summer league and the preseason, how good he was there. So I think we're all in agreement. We're going below, not well below. I don't think that's fair to him. He hasn't had the opportunity to really say that. So next up is Grant. I think Grant is clearly in the well above. I think we were talking about this year how we didn't even think he was going to be in the rotation. And now we're considering him like getting huge playoff minutes when the time does come. Mm-hmm. He's been the second best three-point shooter percentage-wise behind PJ Tucker. And he just has lost the weight, so now he can guard those 4s and those smaller 5s at times. I just think he's been a very crucial part to this team. So, like, I'm I'm in the well above category for him.
Yeah, I think out of these 8, I think Grant's the only guy I would put in the well above. You could argue Rob, and we'll get there, but I think at the moment Grant's the only guy I'd put in that well above category.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the 2 main points, Matt. He's knocking down the 3 ball and he's playing good defense. I also kind of thought he would see a lag in minutes this year. So it's like the opposite effect of Pritchard. Pritchard's not playing that bad, but we had such high expectations. So Grant, I'm definitely well above.
Yeah, it was funny to start the year. I remember we had the conversation. It's like, okay, who's going to earn those minutes between like those 8 to 10 minutes a game between he, Jabari, and Hernan Gomez. And like now it's like, yeah, he's going to be playing 20 minutes a game in the playoffs. Like just the wild change. A lot of it's just like his dedication just to getting better at the things that were clearly need improvement on, right? He offensively, he needed to be that guy that can knock down corner threes. And defensively, he needed to be that kind of small ball 5, like guy that can guard other power forwards. And he's really shown that. Limited the fouls, which has been huge. Okay, now we have Al Horford. Al's an interesting one.
I think this one's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think I personally would put him at the category. I think he's played at expectation. I thought he was going to be a little bit better shooter, a little bit better court spacer. He's been a great passer, which we've known. I think defensively he's been huge. I think he's playing close to all defensive caliber, and so that's a little bit above what I thought he would be at this point in his career. So I'm pretty content with putting him at. I would see the case for above, but I think I'm settling on. I think he's played at expectation this year.
Do either of you have a case for below?
I would put him at below.
Me too.
Just because he was so good for us in the past, and when he was with Thunder and they ended up benching him, I was like, they're benching Al because he's too good and they want a high draft pick.
Yeah.
So just because of the history, and he really just hasn't knocked down the shots this year at the same clip we've seen. And they've been decent looks too. Like if he's hitting that extended elbow jump shot, he becomes a whole different player offensively, but it's been pretty inconsistent this year.
I agree. I think the shooting is what does it for me, but then you go and look at like outside of the last 2 months, outside of 2022, the defense was middling at best. And I think that the one of the main reasons Al was brought in was to solidify the front court, and just it didn't really happen for the first 3 months of the year. I mean, the defense was not good. And I mean, the defense has certainly ramped it up in 2022, but the reason Al was here is to play, like you said, almost all defensive type defense. And it wasn't like that for the first 3 months of the season. So I would put him at below. Did we convince you, Maddie?
No, well, it's just, I think 2 out of 3, you guys say below. I still think he's at. I think his defense has been solid all year. I just think that the cohesiveness as a team, I think that's what struggled. I think individually he was fine. It just wasn't really resulting in being this elite defense we've seen over the last 2 months, because I think there just wasn't the cohesion that we see now with the defense and kind of the style they're playing now to, I believe, Al and Rob's strengths a lot more. I think that's kind of why we've seen the uptick in making him look like he's a much better defender. I don't think anything's changed from the beginning of the year till now. I just think that as a team, we're defending better, so it's making Al look better as an individual defender. But you guys said 2 out of 3, so I'm not gonna disagree and put him at. So we'll put him at below for now.
It's tough right now because aside from that Pistons ugly loss, which we'll get into later, like the sentiment's pretty high on the C's. Like we've been playing really well this year. So I'm trying to not let that influence me too much, because there were those months where I've been pissed at the whole team. So I'm not saying like putting Al at the at category. I'm fine with either, but I think it's been a little underwhelming.
Okay. So next is Jaylen Brown. Just looking at Jaylen's numbers, I think it's interesting to look at. I'll pull that up real quick before we get to the tier. So from this year to last year, we see he's down in points per game. Turnovers are up. Assists are about the same. Rebounds, he's a little bit up. Percentage-wise, he's shooting worse from the field than last year. He is shooting worse from three than last year. Obviously, as a team, they're defending well, but I think honestly, individually, just as part of the whole team concept, I think that you guys can't see. Yeah, I can share this tab. Hang on. So I'm back onto this tab. Across the board, if you just look at like kind of the stats that we normally go by, like points per game, all the per game statistics, and the raw field goal percentages and 3-point percentages, seems like he's down. And obviously he was an all-star last year and wasn't an all-star this year, and there's a reason why. But I think he's played slightly below this year. So I'd have him in the below category.
You have him in below?
Yeah, I just think he's obviously played great, but I expected him he's taken pretty much steady leaps from his rookie year, aside from the year that we had all the chaos with the Terry Rozier and Kyrie year. He's been steadily improving each and every season. I kind of expect him to take another small step, and he's kind of seems like he's stayed the same or regressed a little bit. So it's a little bit below what I expected out of Jalen. I mean, a lot of that could just be my high expectations of him, but that's just where I put him right now.
What do you think, Noel? Because I have a completely different opinion.
My first reaction was to put him at the expectation. But Matt did make some good points. Like my expectations coming into the year were through the roof. But I'm also not super disappointed. It's tough because he started really hot. And then he got hurt, which I'm trying not to fault him too much. And the All-Star, that's kind of like, yeah, his points per game is like a half point lower. But it was tough to make the All-Star out of the East this year. So I guess ultimately I'd put him at expectation, but like if I wanted to go with Matt's line of thinking as like technically what I thought, then yeah, maybe it's a little below.
Because my original thought was to put him at above expectation. Matt, you say you think he has regressed a little. I think that both the defensive eye test, the ball handling, the ball movement. I mean, last year, how many games did Tatum miss pre-All-Star game? I mean, the reason why the points were up last year was partially due to Tatum having COVID, missing like 12 games, 15 games, and it was just Jaylen Brown. I personally would have, before hearing this, would have put him at the above expectations this year. I think that he's become, I guess with the percentages down, I would have said that I thought he became a much more consistent shooter, much more aggressive, downhill ball handler, and a guy I just consider every time he takes one of those like elbow turnarounds, I think it's going in every time. So I would have said above, because I thought Tatum would have taken a bigger leap this year from what I saw last year, who we'll get to next. But I don't know.
And like with the stats, his rebounds were up a little, but in terms of the points, like we don't really want him to be like a 28 points a game guy. I mean, he could get up to 24, 25, but with him and Tatum, I don't really see him making much more leap in terms of points per game. Like what's he at, like 23?
Almost 24.
Yeah, he was at 20. I think he was at 23.7 this year. He's at 24.7 last year. My biggest thing was just like he's not been as efficient as he was last year. I do think he has made improvements, and I can definitely see the argument for at or above. I do think he has made improvements as a shot creator. I think last year he's just taking a little bit easier shots for the most part.
Agreed.
But, I think we can settle on, between the three of us, I think we can settle on he's play at least at expectation. But I would like to see those percentages go up, just become a more efficient scorer. I do think he's a guy that can average those 25 points a game, especially as Tatum grows as a passer. I think they've been using Jaylen Brown more as a facilitator when teams have started to kind of load on, or initiator as the teams started to load on Tatum. But I like to see those assist numbers go up and those passing numbers go up a little bit too. Shooting numbers go up a little bit too.
One thing I will say with Jalen in the All-Star game too is it's kind of tough for, I guess we're technically a 6 seed now, but a struggling team to have 2 All-Stars. And so Tatum, obviously, in the public eye, is still the clear best player. So it's a little tough for Jalen because I don't think he deserves to like not make it. It's not his fault. He's not an all-star per se, but like if the team was a 1 seed and they had the exact stats or even a 2 or 3, I think Jalen has a lot better chance. So he kind of gets the butt end of that in terms of like the team success.
Yeah, I mean, you see the Cavaliers are the 2, 3 seed right now. You got
It's like
Jared.
Garland's not better than Jaylen Brown, but
No, he's not.
they're winning.
Yeah, and Darius Garland's having a great year.
That was no
no, not at all. I didn't think that, but he's fun to watch, and certainly deserving of the All-Star game. So big ups to Darius Garland.
Yeah, I mean, but Allen was the second guy to make it. I mean, Darius Garland made it initially over Jared Allen, which kind of, I think, surprised quite a few people. He's not having a bad year by any means. I think he's deserving of it. But Jared Allen was the second guy from that team. You saw, I think, the only other guys with 2. Brooklyn at the time had 2 with Harden and KD, and obviously Harden's kind of a tier above where we see Jaylen Brown, but not very many teams got 2 guys.
I mean, and then you think like the Warriors, Andrew Wiggins isn't better than Jalen either, and he's a starter.
No, I mean, if Jalen was in the Western Conference and he win it as a forward, I think I think he'd easily get in. I think the forward in the West was very, very weak, and you kind of saw that. But you kind of saw that with guys like that was also stupid. Like a K-pop band, I think, had a big influence on Andrew Wiggins getting all those votes. So just some stuff that like is out of anyone's control for Andrew Wiggins getting in the West there. Next up, we have Jason Tatum. If you'd like, I can pull up his stats from this year to last. He's a lot of the same things as Jalen, where his points per game is down. His assists stayed the same, which is really surprising because I feel like he's been a better passer this year. But you know what's a crazy stat is he leads the league actually in defensive win shares, which I don't know the exact formula for calculating that, but I know that's something that's pretty hard to do. And I think typically last couple of years, it's been the guys that's leading the league in that have been guys like Giannis and Rudy Gobert, guys that are like elite and usually big men too. So I think that's pretty impressive to see that. So I put him at the personally.
Yeah. Go ahead, Noel.
I would go below, but I was flirting between at and below. I didn't know about the defensive win share percentage thing. It's right back to the overall team success for me. Tatum didn't necessarily blossom so far this year into being in that, elite superstar category. He's kind of still, one below that. And obviously we all have, high expectations, want this to be a championship team, championship organization. So I guess I'm at below with Tatum, just because of team overall success. And I think his passing's gotten better in the last few weeks, but once again, I'm trying to think of this whole season. But I can make the argument for at as well.
Yeah, I mean, would you guys say that the expectation for Jason Tatum now is all-star starter every year?
I would, yeah. I mean, all-star starter is tough because you obviously have the Western Conference. You have KD, Joel Embiid, and Giannis. So I think that's like if KD was out, like clearly those 3 are much better than Tatum. Like those guys are a tier of their own. I think that he should be looking to be a guy that makes one of those All-NBA teams, like an All-NBA third-team caliber player.
I would kind of say though, Emery, especially as like KD gets older. I mean, we're also a Celtics podcast. Like we've got our biases, but I want to keep seeing him start. Like that's my new expectation. KD's getting old, and I want him to be better than Embiid. And
that's my thought process. And so for the second year in a row, albeit it's twice because of Kevin Durant's injury, he's starting the All-Star game. But I think that should be the new expectation. So with that logic, I would put him at meeting the expectation for the season.
I'm not convinced though. Like, yeah, as good as I think he is, I think Kevin Durant, obviously before he got injured, was an MVP candidate. I think Joel Embiid's leading the MVP, and I don't need to tell you guys how good Giannis is. I just don't think that's fair until we do see a significant drop in the play of Kevin Durant or one of those guys moves to the Western Conference. I just think he's in a really tough spot. Where I think in the West he's clearly better than Andrew Wiggins. I think he would be a starter out there, no problem. But I think he's in a really tough spot with some of the guys that are the similar position in the front court in the East.
That's a good point. Yeah,
It is.
Now we have Marcus Smart. I'll just see what you guys say. His numbers across the board, I think, are either down or stay the same. I can kind of pull that up real quick. His shooting numbers, I know, actually they're up from last year, but that's because he wasn't a great shooter last year. His points per game are down, but his effective field goal is about the same. His field goal percentage is up. 3-point percentage is down. Yeah, his field goal percentage is up, but his 3-point percentage is down. That's what I was looking at. His effective field goal is about the same. So he's shooting about the same. About the same amount of turnovers. I was surprised his assists are lower than last year. It seemed like he's been much more facilitator this year. But I think the biggest thing is he's just taking fewer shots. I just think that he has wanted to move the ball. He doesn't care about getting his assist numbers. I wouldn't think looking at this saying I think he's a much better passer from this year to last year. And I think he's playing like all defensive first team caliber defense. So I would have to put him above expectations because I think he's doing, other than shooting the 3-ball better, I think he's done pretty much everything that we've asked for him or expected of him going into this season.
I think we could sit here for 20 minutes and argue any one of the above, at, or below expectations. I think it comes down to what we expect from Marcus Smart, and that is an iffy shot selection and incredible defense. And I think the shot selection has been so much better this year. And so yeah, Matt, I agree with you there about above expectations. He's taken less shots. He's looked past the eye test as a facilitator, and again, played great defense.
Yeah, I totally agree about the being able to argue any. I'm so like, one game I hate him, one game I love him with Marcus, and I really have been his whole career. He obviously does so many intangible things, so much that doesn't show up in the box sheet. But I was still thinking between at and below. His shot selection's better, but why is he still taking 5 threes a game? And why does he always have to take a bad heat check if he hits 1 or 2? I just don't get why at the NBA level he can't get a little better with those bad shots.
To be fair, that's much fewer threes than he's taken the past 2 seasons. He took 6.6 in 2019 to 2020. He took 5.9 last season, and only 4.8 this year. So he's
yeah, I know, but it's 6.6 is terrible for a bad shooter. Like, that's way too many. 5 is still a lot.
But then you also make the argument with like the Ben Simmons thing and like some of the guys that don't shoot at all. Like, you need guys to at least be a threat. And I think shooting a little under 5 threes a game like isn't crazy. It's not going to kill you. Like shooting like close to 7, which he was a couple years ago, like that can really kill you if he's not hitting those. But shooting a little under 5 a game, I think is a good. Maybe get that a little bit lower, but I don't think that's bad at all. Even if he's not hitting them, just to make sure he's still being that threat. And he's a guy that can get streaky. Like when he does hit he does have games where he had one earlier this year. He hit like 8, right? Something like crazy like that. He can occasionally get hot.
I guess I'm being overcritical, and I agree with the Ben Simmons thing. Like, it's just miserable when you've got someone out there that's not even a threat, and there's an extra defender in the lane. I guess I just am overcritical of that, like 1 or 2 bad shots a game. So I mean, I guess I am fine with at, and 2 against 1 will put him at above. But
I'm fine with that too. So my argument, like for against that, Nolan, would be how many years is it now that we just expect Marcus to have 2 weird fucking shots a game?
Yeah, and he does a ton of good things to make up for it. I just we had our high school team, and the coach was able to be like, yo, this is your I know I'm being overcritical. It just feels so repetitive. You're right. Like, how many years do we expect to wanky shots. But I mean, I love Marcus. He's one of those guys where it's like Pat Bev. Like if you're facing him, you hate him, but when he's on your team, you love him, and he really does. Like there could be a category in the like it's like a Tommy point. It really is, for a shout out to the great Tommy Heinsohn. But like getting a Marcus point is literally a thing now. So yeah, I mean, I love Marcus. I just wish he could take that one shot a game out.
What are you two guys set on, at or above?
I'm at.
I'll go with that.
Okay, so we'll leave him at. Just one more thing with Marcus. I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong, but I know at one point he was leading the team in plus minus. I don't know if that's still true, but he just, like you said, he does intangible things. Like none of his stats should prove that he's the most helpful player. No one's saying he's the best player, but sometimes I feel like he can be the most important because the way he can change that offense and make it feel more like a team rather than a ISO show. Okay, Aaron Nesmith.
One sec about that plus minus. Wasn't it like the start of that of the 8-game streak? He had like 3 games in a row, a combined plus minus of like 118 over those 3 games, like 2 back-to-back plus 40 plus, you know, like
I think one of those. I'm pretty sure one of those he was like 0 for 5 shooting with like 3 turnovers. Like like his stats just like don't back it up, but just having him on the court just changes the way the game plays. Like it's something you can't measure with box scores or like even most analytics, except for like, okay, the team's playing better. Like that's the only, it doesn't make sense, but the team just plays better with him on the court. Nesmith, I don't know if this conversation can be too long. This one's, I think he's got to either be at or below.
I know I would put him below, not really to fault him, but he's not shooting at a great clip. That's his main thing. Or is he, Matt? I mean, maybe the stats.
No, he's shooting poorly, but also, I mean, I don't know if you guys listen to Anything is Potable. It's the Athletic Celtics podcast, but they occasionally they'll have his like AAU coach, the same guy that coached he and Chris Middleton, and like Nesmith like couldn't shoot basically till his senior year of high school. Like, he was never a shooter. The only reason he started shooting is because teams would just like play back on him because he was such an athlete. And he really only had he had one good year his freshman year at Vanderbilt, and he had one great year his sophomore year that was like he only played half the season. So I think labeling him as a shooter might be a little bit unfair to him because I do think he has the potential to be more well-rounded than that. But I'd be okay saying below just because like in the opportunities we've seen him, and I'd be interested to see like in games where he's played, like what his numbers are where he's played like 10 plus minutes, because I don't think it's really fair when he's playing the last 5 minutes of a game and he goes like 0 for 4 shooting.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've played basketball not very well, and you've played basketball, no, like coming off at the end of the game and just like trying to get hot real quick, like that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, that's a good point with the shooting thing. UNCW actually played them in the first half of the year. That season, he shot like 48% from 3, and he absolutely rained in on us. That's interesting what you said about the AAU coach. I didn't know that. I kind of just pictured him as a shooter because, we draft Nesmith. I'm like, oh, I watched him play once. Then you go look at his stats, and like the 3-point percentage is what sticks out. But the thing that's tough with that is like what he did that half season. I mean, any team could use it, but like that's what we need is a 3-and-D, someone just to kick it out to. It's a great look. So like that season he had at Vanderbilt where we all looked at right after we drafted him, it's like exactly what we need. Even though he's not that, maybe it's unfair to try to label him that.
So he's played in, let me think, so 25 plus 16, 41 games this year. Just his minute splits in 0 to 9 minutes, he's shooting 32% from the field, 19% from 3. From 10 to 19, and he's a minus 19.4 in those minutes. In 10 to 19 minutes, he's shooting 40% from the field, still 19% from 3, but he's a minus 2.1. And in games where he plays, well, let's say over 20 minutes, which has only been 6 games, as opposed to the last one was 16 and 19 with the 0 to 9. So the smallest sample size, but in games where he is playing at least 20 minutes, he's shooting 37.8% from the field, 34% from 3, and he's a plus 23.4. So he really is.
It just kind of goes with what you said about like it's tough to just come in the last couple minutes or at the end of a quarter and hit a shot. So yeah, it just goes with having your legs under you, getting warmed up.
Yeah. So, what are we settling on? Just below? Is that seems to be the consensus here? Yeah. Last but not least, we have Rob.
Well below.
I thought as soon as Emery said this is the only person I'm putting at above that I've got another. Rob is at well above for me, and that's even with my high expectations.
Yeah, I think my expectations were too high. I literally I think I predicted his exact stats like to this point in the year. I was like, I think he's gonna have like 10, 10. I think I said like 2.5, and then like 2 and 2 or 2 and 3 or something like that. And he's very close to it just because I had lofty expectations for him. I think he's playing close to all defensive level. I think there's a decent chance he makes it, depending on if we saw last year, like Embiid was considered you could put him at the forward position. So if Rob has that opportunity, I think he might make an all defensive team. I think if it's just centers, I think it's gonna be tough. If he's just listed as a center, I should say, it's gonna be tough. But since making the switch where he's playing more like Gobert does, where I think he's better on the perimeter than Gobert, but where like they don't put him on the center, they put Al on the center, which allows Rob just to basically just like focus on protecting the rim. I think he's just completely excelled and that's when the defense really changed. So credit to Ime for doing that. I would say Rob's above expectations. I had very high expectations for him going into the year, so it's really hard for me to put him in the well above. But I would definitely say he's played above expectations for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I'm having a tough time differentiating, like comparing my expectation and then just how good are they playing, because I thought Rob was going to eat too. So like technically he would be at or above for me. But I think from like the rest of the NBA, he's like so slept on. So that's why I said well above, just like coming out of nowhere to a large, amount of fans. People don't really know Rob Will.
No, but they will.
I mean, he's just, I don't think he's, someone told me, I can't remember what he was leading the league, but I believe he's leading the league in like offensive rating for players that, yeah. That's crazy. He has a plus 42 off net rating, which is just like bonkers.
Well, I'm pretty sure. What was this stat, Matt? I think you retweeted it the other day or shared something that was like
have the highest offensive rating of all time if it continues here at 143, and he has a defensive rating of 101. So just like a huge net rating. Like he's just such a net positive when he's on the court because of all he can do. He makes like the other guys' jobs easy because he, like I've mentioned, he's a good passer. He doesn't demand the ball, which works well with guys like Tatum and Jaylen Brown, which are going to be guys that are high usage players. And if everything just goes to shit, you can just throw up a lob and there's a good chance he's going to be able to get a hand on it and make a play for it. Or at least like be able to catch it, come down with it, and maybe do something else with it.
And jump faster than anybody else in the NBA.
Yeah, jump and double jump. Like that's what makes him, he's just so bouncy. I mean, I can go on. I can have a whole 45-minute podcast, just all the things I love about Rob. But so Emery, did you make yours?
It could be up to you guys. I mean, he's played above my expectations, and the expectations I had of him were very high.
Yeah, I'd say above's good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's our list. Grant being the well above, which I think is tough for any guys that are getting big minutes from year to year. And we saw Rob kind of get big minutes last year. If he was maybe stuck behind Tice for longer, I think we could have put him in that well above category. We have a Rob alone in the above. We have Jalen, Jason, and Marcus at, and below we have Pritchard, Al, and Neesmith. We have no one well below, which I think is fair. I think maybe if we were looking at this 3 weeks ago, I think we could have put some people at the well below just with our frustrations. I think the list would have looked a little bit different.
Dennis.
Even Dennis, like he's weird because statistically it's like, oh no, he's like playing fine. But then you watch the games and you look at kind of how the team does with him on the court. I just think that's a more function of his play style. But I could have heard that argument.
Romeo would have been there too.
I would have said
below, yeah.
I thought Neesmith was going to have a better year than Romeo coming into this year, and then Romeo kind of got the minutes, which surprised me. And I don't know. I thought Romeo played like at or below. Like I didn't have super high expectations. Obviously, love Romeo, but I don't think I was like crazy high on him. Okay.
Small sample size so far, but Derek White's looking like he's above.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, it was too small. I didn't want to put any of the guys in there that we just got, and I didn't want to put guys that were already off the team because I thought that was pointless. I think it would have taken too long. We're already 35 minutes in. I think about 30
Yeah,
of
let's do this. Let's do this recap quick.
So Hawks game, if you followed me and Nolan, if you listened to our bets, you would be a wealthy man after today. I think I was 2 for 3. I was right on the Rob over points, rebounds, assists.
Right, and then I had the Celtics Bengals teaser, so that hit
pretty easily. The only thing I was wrong on was the Trae Young under on points, which, whatever. Still 2 for 3.
Yeah, that was a big win. I mean, Tatum with 38, Rob with a double-double, and was that Derek White's debut?
I don't believe so. No, because definitely wasn't, because I think we had seen him 2 games before that.
Oh yeah, right. But he played well. He had 14 off the bench.
Yeah. No. And that was the only game we were fully healthy because Rob missed the next 2 games, and Smart came out of didn't play the second half of the Sixers game or at all in the Pistons game. I mean, the Pistons seemed like a team that we could have gone easy against. Clearly that didn't work out. I think a lot of that was just overlooking them heading into the break on a 9-game win streak. But that's one I'd be mad at 3 weeks ago, but today it's whatever.
Yeah. This was also a game at the half. They were down by 10, and it was looking like the Celtics of old. And then the defense ramped up to start the second half, and shots started falling. And then
we almost doubled them up in the third quarter.
Right.
Yeah, that's nice to see. And that's credit to Ime. We were hard on him, saying that he just isn't a very good coach at this point. I obviously wanted to give him time because I do think it was early. I don't think that was fair to him to completely just shit on him. It's you're a rookie. Rookies aren't supposed to be great at what they do immediately. And he's improved a lot. Obviously second half's been much better. Like I said, making that adjustment with Allen Robb defensively has been huge. Offense still needs some work, but I think we've seen the offense improve since he's made some, even once he started making rotation minutes decisions and playing Schroeder less. So the ball seemed to move a lot better. But yeah, overall, I think this was a good week of basketball. Obviously, the Pistons loss wasn't ideal, but we were down 2 starters and we were on a 9-game win streak. And it was the game before All-Star break. I think some of the guys might have been a little checked out, but we absolutely just curb stomped the Sixers. That was cool to see. They just had
best win of the season so far.
Yeah, and we were without Rob, and we still out rebounded them with Embiid by a significant amount. I think this was the game. Didn't Jalen score the first 11 points, something crazy like that?
Yeah.
Start, and they just didn't stop. And then we can't even talk about the second half because the second half they got out to the starters got out, extended the lead, and then they just put the subs in for pretty much the entire rest of the second half.
Emery, I remember way earlier in the season we were talking about it. I don't even remember the game, but it was man, this is finally fun to watch. That Sixers game made me think of that, and it didn't end this time. It actually went all the way through because I think we blew the lead in the last game. We were saying was fun.
It was like against the Rockets or something too. We were talking in the group chat, man, this is what we've been expecting all year, and then, but no, I mean Aaron Naismith, best game of the year. Got 23 minutes, shot 6 of 9, 3 of 5 from 3, ended up with 18 points. So that's probably close to a career high, correct, Matty?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably look it up pretty quickly if you guys want to talk about something else because I have his stats pulled up.
I remember, so I went to that Sixers-Celtics game last time they played them, and Rob was out.
Mm-hmm.
So it was literally Embiid on fucking Ennis, and Embiid just had a field day. So I remember really thinking going into this game, I want to prove we can slow Embiid down. And Rob didn't even play. So right, Embiid still hasn't even seen Rob this year, and we were able to, just absolutely mop the floor with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
quite a bit in this game too, because Al got into foul trouble. Al plays Embiid about as well as you can, but with that being said, he's still gotten a little bit of foul trouble. We saw Tice was able to hold his own, but yeah, and that's part of it too, where I think putting Al on the bigger guys and letting Rob reign free will be something that we see even come playoff time. And unless Tobias Harris can really hurt us on the perimeter attacking Rob, I think we should be all set because you're going to get that Rob being able to come over and help with Embiid, and then you're just going to have two big bodies. And we can play really physical with a team like that because we do have the ability to not only put Al on him, but also if Al gets in trouble, put Rob on him. If Rob gets into foul trouble, then you can put Tice on him. Like, we have enough big bodies that we can really be physical with Embiid come playoff time, which I think is very important, something we didn't have in past years. Yep, and that was his career high. He had 16 points last year in a game, and this was his career high with 18.
Nice.
Okay. Do you have any more hot takes? Do you have any predictions for the All-Star games you guys want to get off your chest?
I wanted to predict the final standings. If like we're at the All-Star break, what do you got? I was thinking about it because I do have a sort of a hot take on that.
Let's hear it.
Celtics will finish second in the East.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think they stay right around the 5-6 seed. I don't think they collapse, but I think that we've been very fortunate. I think it's gonna be hard to make that run again, especially like banking on everyone staying healthy. I think we need a long stretch of health like we saw during the win streak in order to make that run. And that just seems like really hard to do. And it seems like we're going to start trying to work in days for Rob and Al to get days off to like keep them healthy for when it matters the most. But I'd love to hear.
I think it's a hot take for sure, but I think it's absolutely doable.
I like them to move up a few spots in the ranks. I don't know about the 2, but I'm fine.
I think the Sixers are going to get better. I think the Bucks are going to. They've gotten healthy and they've made some acquisitions. I think the Bucks are going to continue playing well. I don't think we're going to catch the Bulls or the Cavs. I think the Cavs, for whatever reason, I think they're going to might be an easy out in the playoffs. But I think at least during the regular season, they're going to be able to maintain where they're at, or at least close to it.
We're only 4.5 back.
I know. Yeah. I think we'll catch the Bulls. I think Philly will slow down. I think Cleveland's passable. Another hot take. I don't think Levine plays the rest of the year.
Pretty sure he's playing the All-Star game tonight.
I think that's a bad idea. I don't think he's gonna play. I
think he saw a specialist and they said it was like kind of a minor thing and just kind of like
bold prediction. Levine will have a season-ending injury.
I guess he's had him before, so it's not completely out of the question.
But I don't think Heat's that good for being the 1 seed. I think we could catch the Cavs. I think we could catch the Sixers. The Bulls are actually one that I think are going to keep getting hot. But
they're another team. Like, I think they're just built for a regular season team. Like we've seen with those old Raptors teams or those Hawks teams where they have a lot of guys that can beat you. They have Vucevic, obviously, who's been a guy that's been an all-star. They have DeRozan, Levine.
Vuce is playing out of his mind the last couple weeks.
I just think they have enough people that they're going to be able to keep their head above water for at least the regular season. I think if they get a bad match in the playoffs, I think it might be done with. I think teams are going to attack Vucevic hard. But
we got a big game at Brooklyn right after the All-Star break.
Yeah, I think Simmons should be playing that, so we'll see. But Durant, I think, is still going to be out. I don't know how long Durant's injury is for, but I imagine he'll be back relatively soon.
And what was the? I saw a couple numbers out of the top 6 teams in the remaining schedule versus the other top 6 teams. The Celtics only play them three times, and every other top 6 team plays each other at least 7 times. I think I know a lot of Milwaukee's games are against Philly at the end. Like I think they have like 3 of their 4 in this back half or something like that. Or it's either like Milwaukee plays Brooklyn 3 times or something, or not Brooklyn, sorry, plays Chicago or Miami, something like that. I know that like the Celtics only have 3 more games against these top 6 teams currently.
Yeah, I was just looking at the schedule coming up too.
I think they have the second easiest out of the playoffs. I think the Cavs are the only ones. And I think the Celtics have like the 19th hardest schedule, and the Cavs have the 23rd hardest schedule. So I think the Cavs are the only team that has an easier road from here on out.
So yeah, that's my hot take. Celtics will finish second in the East.
We'll have to see. Okay, I think that's it. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.